I'll continue on with Ellen White's testimony. Many of the grossest habits are cherished under the plea of experience. Now, I want to pause here to point out, if there is something that you cling to or that you prop up as being valid due to experience, if you say, well, I tried it and it worked, I don't care if there have been no scientific experiments, I tried it and it worked. The problem with that is that you know that that is not a reliable method, because you know that others use that same method pointing to their experience in order to prop up and justify things which are not true. Like Ellen White says here, many of the grossest habits are cherished under the plea of experience. In Ellen White's day, some of the things that I'm sure she had in mind were the use of tobacco, like whether it's chewing tobacco or smoking tobacco, drinking alcohol, different things like that. People can point to their experience. Today, of course, most people, even who are users of tobacco, acknowledge its harmfulness and so on. But there are other issues today, and there are other practices that everyone here would acknowledge as being not valid, and yet people justify those practices by their experience. So if you're justifying something by your experience and you think that you don't need scientific backing for whatever it may be, know that you are on no better ground than they are. Even if it turns out that the thing that you're using or promoting is actually valid, you have no justification in using or promoting it unless and until it is backed by science. And when we talk about backed by science, again, as I pointed out at the end of our last meeting, I don't mean that you can find a study that supposedly proves it to work. No, it means that there should be a body of evidence, and everything needs to be taken into account. If you find 20 studies that say homeopathy works, when there have been 2,000 that show that it doesn't, and you side with the 20, that isn't going with the weight of evidence, unless you can show that the 2,000 were all very poorly conducted, small sample, whatever, and that the 20 were massively well done studies with long periods of time, many people involved, and whatever, the methods of the studies have to be taken into consideration, the amount of people, the time involved, and, some of those things are more relevant and some of them are less relevant depending on what the issue is, what is being studied. But this is why Ellen White says that there needs to be a knowledge of the principle involved in the action. That's why that is so important, because you need to know even what to test. This is the difference between science-based medicine and so-called evidence-based medicine. Science-based medicine cares about the principle involved in the action, whereas evidence-based medicine, or I'll say again, so-called evidence-based medicine, does not necessarily take that into account. Again, for that distinction, I recommend watching the series of lectures by Harriet Hall called Science-Based Medicine. You can find it on YouTube, on the James Randi Foundation YouTube channel, and I also recommend checking out the Science-Based Medicine blog. You can just go on Google, type in Science-Based Medicine blog, you will find it. You can go on bdsda.com/resources and scroll down to the health section, and it links to the Science-Based Medicine blog and other excellent resources on health. Anyway, it's very important to realize that the method is important and that none of us can be justified in using our experience to prop up or justify our beliefs or habits or practices.